Tiempo libre preso, esconde mi vestido, la dimensión de un beso, que aún no se sabe, las comisuras de una boca que me canta y que me toca cada día entre la realidad y la fantasía, que agonía y que placer. La realidad está loca cuando acierta se equivoca. La realidad es su peso, nada entienden de los besos. La realidad vacía de locura y fantasía, el tierno humano no soportaría. La realidad está loca cuando acierta se equivoca. La realidad es su peso, nada entienden de los besos. La realidad está llena de locura, de la buena besando la mente. No me importa qué dirá la gente, cierto o espejismo, es lo mismo en manos de la muerte. Juraría ver en los rincones de tus ojos 1000 dragones, duendes rojos, que aman libres y sin condición. La razón es tan fría que magia y amor sin dudar mataría. Por eso mi amante y su boca cantan y me tocan cada día, entre realidad y la fantasía mía, que me llena tanto de alegría, que agonía y que placer vivir en tiempo libre y preso, donde en mi vestido la invención de un beso he conocido.
So what did I just hear? What did I hear you say?
You heard me say, reality is madness. Whenever it's right, it proves itself wrong. Reality and its weight understands nothing about love and about kisses. And whoever gives in to this reality and doesn't consider the fantasy part of life is doomed forever.
Where did that song come from?
You know, that's the $1 million question that all artists are trying to figure out all the time. Some songs, you're very conscious of the process of writing them. Some songs are complete unknown creatures that come to you and you don't even remember. And scientifically, it's proven that in really deep moments of creativity, the frequencies of consciousness lowered to such levels that it would make sense that sometimes you just don't remember how and when and why you ended up writing this, or whoever ended up writing this through you.
Does it disturb you sometimes, or is it? Does it feel like sometimes you're possessed and it doesn't feel quite comfortable, but ultimately you're giving birth to something that's beautiful, so it's worth it?
It's a double-edged sword. I think there's a beauty to it so big that you feel lucky, and at the same time, since you cannot control it, it's scary that at some point it's going to leave you and never come back, right? The ability to get there, to do that. So it's scary in this sense that, I don't know, I'm just like a lover, you know? Like, people are individuals, you can't stop them from coming or going, and almost songs and inspiration is the same thing. You just have to make yourself a well-rounded person enough so that, one, you can exist in a reality without that kind of magic, and at the same time be so inspiring for this magic that the magic itself wants to be near you, because magic wants to exist through people, right? So if you're a person that experiences wonder and awe constantly, I feel like magic is comfortable around you in its days. Yeah.
How did you discover that this was a language that was good for you and gave you energy and gave you life?
I I had been playing piano for a long time, and I never really connected to music the way I connect to the guitar. And the guitar was a thing that started about 5 years ago. And I discovered a connection to the instrument that I had never felt before, and a capacity to write in my own language, in my mother language, that made me more open to talk about real things, about things that really mattered in my life. English was some sort of a barrier.
Home for you comes out in your music?
Yes, for people that decide to be artists or have no other option than to be artists, the concept of home is very interesting because you don't find it much. And if it's in this world of dreams, world of creativity and inspiration that doesn't really have a root here, it's not a physical thing, it's very difficult to feel at home in places. But this does have some sort of familiarity and identity. It gives you an identity. I guess that can be translated into some sort of home. Yeah.
And do you find that thinking about the total of everything you've experienced so far in your life, is there more comfort in those experiences, or is there some discomfort?
It's changed over the past years. I was used to the comfortability of discomfort. It was very easy for me to just move around and have to deal with something that was going on in my life that didn't give me any stability, and I just got used to just being on the go and survival mode, they call it, right? You become comfortable with that, and then when things start going well, you're surprised, you're uncomfortable, and you're like, well, where is the tragedy coming from? Because that's what I'm used to, right? So I think for many people, we have to relearn to be comfortable with good things happening to us and with life being easier than we expected. Because we have romanticized drama and pain and suffering as artists. It's like, oh, well, it's part of the creative process. There's nothing we can do about it. Actually, we welcome it into our lives because then, you know, the more dramatic the situation, the better the song I'm going to write about it. And that's not necessarily true. And it drains us and it kills us. And so being comfortable with the good, being comfortable with the light, being comfortable with having a place. Also, that's hard for me. It's hard for many artists I know. It's to be like, well, I have a home and I wake up in the morning and I make toast and an orange juice. And it's just like, this is such a normal thing. At the same time, I don't feel like a normal person. So there's this clash that you have to reconcile with, because first and foremost, you're human, and then you're an artist. And we forget that.
Yeah, we're very hard on ourselves.
Very much.
And I mean, it comes from school, I think, you know, and from wanting to please other people, obviously. I mean, there's that period when you're little where everything, the world's just really exciting and there's carefreeness, but then there's that point in everybody's life where something happens that shocks you and you feel responsible for what happened, and so you try to get back into that, you try to go back to that moment of bliss that kind of everybody as a child, there's that Garden of Eden you get kicked out of, you know? And then as adults, we kind of just punish ourselves so much and carry that with us for so long. And I guess you can never go back to what you had, but you can be thankful for what you struggled through, and remember that it is possible to live in that space again.
It is. It is. I do believe it's possible. You cannot go back. You can just adapt it to the way things are now. And even not, you know, this phrase I just said, I don't even agree with. Things are a certain way. That doesn't mean they can't change, right? And the phrase, the way things are, I don't want to take it. So it's the same thing. We have our story is, you are a kid, you are careless, and you welcome all these imaginary worlds, and that's normal for your age. And at some point, you have to give up on all of that, on all the pleasure that it gives you, and all the passion that you have for things beyond our capitalistic society. And you have to grow up, you have to man up, you have to. Who said that, and why? And I do believe these two things can coexist. They don't contradict each other. They actually help each other out, you know.
Well, how have you found, how has that realization, how does that work for you in your life? Because obviously all artists, you know, at the end of the day, we still have to pay bills and stuff like that. And
we do. It's so hard. It's like, it's very easy to write a symphony for a 30-piece orchestra, but to pay your taxes, it's, oh my God, so horrible. It's going to take me months to figure this out. It's not even, it's not that it's difficult, because it isn't. It's that it's so mundane and so devoid of any kind of magic and artistry that it's painful, you know? And writing a symphony isn't. Like, you can spend, I don't know, 40, 50 hours every week for months doing that, and you'll be happy. But I think in my case, in my life, I came here as an immigrant and I had no money. So I worked like all immigrants and non-immigrants, everybody that's broke, I guess, on all kinds of jobs. And the main job I had was to take care of kids. And I realized that I would make my life much easier if I was a person that kids liked, instead of someone that picks them up from school and they dread until their parents come home. And a reason, in a way to do that, was to learn to get back into that world where they live in, where things are not necessarily the way they are, and you can make things up, and there's magical creatures everywhere, and these are priorities over paying rent or food. And having to gravitate from this world every day, because I would do 10 hours a day of that, babysitting, and then having to go back home and be an adult, like an adult in my early 20s, was a great muscle I developed in between the fantasy world and reality, and I learned to coexist in both, you know.
when you're creating a new piece of music, do you find that there's a particular way that it comes about? Like, are you in kind of a quiet space, or is it different every time?
It is pretty different every time, but it does require some sort of space, time, and silence. So it's usually going to be the moments where I need to be stable, and I get back home from touring for months and there's nothing ahead, and I have a little pocket of money that allows me to actually stay at home and have to go out and hustle and be like, okay. And then you unload all the musical experience, all the life experiences you've had, and you translate it into songs.
So what has been translated to you recently that you can share with me right now?
There's a song called The Path. I'm going to try to play it without messing it up, because life has been as complicated as this song is.
What is when you play that? What is there anything going on in your mind? Any visuals?
Yeah, this is a dance. This is a dance between the guitar and the voice. So I see it as almost like filling up spaces. If the voice goes da 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 da, in between you add the guitar. So you go da 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 da, almost like a relationship between two dancers. One makes a movement, the other one fills up the movement that the first dancer's body left, and stuff like this, and then they intertwine. That's the idea on this song. It's very
Awesome.
actually mostly visual more than musical. Yeah.
What was that piece called?
The Path.
The Path? How did you think, did the name just come to you?
Well, it's also the visual thing of it, almost like it's going. It has that thing of the path. It's like adding, goes up and up and up and up, and then down, 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 down. That's a path.
It sounds like a symphony too.
Thing.
It does. It's
I'd love to have it actually with an orchestra, with a philharmonic.
It sounds, yeah. I can. It's very sweeping, and I was thinking of like watching the leaves and the wind blow through it, and just thinking that it was very much evoked a sense of like spring and maybe like the cherry blossoms falling off the trees and swirling in the wind. You know?
Yeah, these are my favorite trees. So.
The cherry blossoms? Wow.
Yeah.
So what elements of home, when you think of home, not being home from maybe Barcelona, but just home in general, what images and what feelings come to mind that define home for you?
There is a certain amount of security that has to do with home, with the idea of home, with the fact that I haven't found it, and I have been on my own in an unknown country with an unknown language at some point for a long time, and considering the fact that home would look like a place where I'd feel like I don't have to be struggling all the time, and like I know I'm not alone. Sometimes when you spend so much time away from home, you develop a relationship of mother-daughter with yourself, where you're able to switch, when you have to console yourself because there's no one around, and then when you can be your own baby and be like, okay, cry, you're fine, you know. It'd be nice to. So I guess what I'm saying is home feels like other people as well, not only myself, but finding a community, finding someone to exist with, right? But then the place doesn't really matter. The feeling of home is that related with safety, with rest, with true rest. I hope one day it comes, because I think it's pretty necessary.
Are you tired a little bit?
It's an emotional tiredness. The way that the music business works, the way the standards and principles of the music companies to hire and choose an artist over the other are extremely inhumane. Actually, they have nothing to do with humanity or talent nowadays, for most of it, and so it's exhausting when you're told that the only way to succeed, whatever that means, because a successful career for me would be that I could actually do this for a living and pay my rent at the same time and not have to wonder if that's gonna be able to happen at the end of the month. It shouldn't be like that. So yeah, having that, just resting for a second, that'd be great. And it is a financial thing, but it's also an emotional thing of a lot of self-love and a lot of peace of mind, knowing that what you're doing, you're not selling yourself to anybody or to anything, you know. You stay true to your principles and to the music and to the gift that has been given to you. Yeah.
All of your creation, is it mostly gentle and soft?
Almost feel like it's in the early stages of something, and I'd like it to grow when I find more people to play with, when I can create a little group, add instruments that will add this harshness to it. Maybe I'm just trying to compensate for the hassle of being in a city like this in New York, like, because I'm gonna play music that feels peaceful and warm. I don't know.
I could see how that could be the influence right now. But again, I think as an artist, you're going to change, you're going to evolve, you're going to want to try new things, and it's alchemy, right? Creating something new every time. Depends on who you're connecting with.
Right.
I've lived in different places in my life, and I think the most extreme different place I've ever visited was India. And even when I was in India, though, I thought to myself, I didn't feel like I didn't belong there. You know, it was an odd feeling, and I guess I never really thought what it would feel like going somewhere else. And because you think when you are somewhere else, you get overwhelmed by the difference of it, but it didn't really overwhelm me. And I don't know if that. I don't think that. It's probably not the same for everybody. But for me, I always wondered what it is about me. Maybe it's just my subconscious need to be in survival mode all the time. That just, it's in the back of my mind, but it comes across as really casual and calm. But it's an interesting dynamic. And does that same thing work for you? Like wherever you go, you pretty much feel like you're safe, or do you sometimes feel like different places you've been to don't provide that same sense of security for yourself?
I think it doesn't have to do with the place, no.
Yeah.
It has to do with the relationship you have with yourself. And so the places I've been to have just provided a different path to walk through as myself, and that changed a part of me. But the place itself I wouldn't blame it on the place whether it feels safe or not safe, or comfortable or not comfortable. No, it's been interesting for my brain when I've been in places where I couldn't understand or read the language. They don't use the letters of the alphabet that I'm used to, like Latin letters, because your brain is very, very calm, because you're walking on the street and there's no information that has meaning that comes into your brain. It's just signs. And there was something really peaceful about that. You didn't have any words, any meaning, anything you had to think about that came from a poster or a panel or something. You just saw images all the time. That was freeing. That was very calming. Yeah.
How's your journey been that has brought you to this place where you're able to feel at home wherever you are? Do you know what's contributed to that in your life?
Yeah, not feeling at home for a long time. I think that has contributed a lot.
Yeah.
Giving life a chance, like being like, okay, I know my experience has been difficult, or I have been told that the world is a dark place and that people are not to be trusted, but what if they are wrong? And giving that chance to life to surprise you, to have good people come into your life, to trust people for no reason more than because your instinct tells you so, has been really, really beneficial for me and for my feeling at home with myself. Yeah.
I remember when I was little, I grew up in a suburb of Colorado, and I looked out my window and I just saw all the rooftops of these houses, all of them kind of the same. And I was just like, oh, I'm so bored, And it was almost like I just always remember thinking, I want to have an adventure, And there was a class, I remember distinctly sitting around one day in grade school with a group of kids on the floor, and there was a parent that was visiting that was helping with the class. And there was some activity that we were talking about, and I had mentioned how, I want to have an adventure, and the woman said to me, she goes, "Oh, I feel like you're going to have a big adventure of a life, And it's exciting when you think about that, but then with the adventure comes a lot of joy, but a lot of heartbreak and a lot of, disappointments. But it's almost like Pinocchio, right? It's like before you can to become a real boy, you have to experience, you have to fall off the shelf and you have to
You have to go inside of the whale.
Yeah.
You do.
The belly of the whale.
Yes, you do. You have to do that. Yeah.
So what do you want to close with?
I'll close with the first single of my album called Siete Lágrimas, 7 Tears.
You want to tell, or am I going to be hearing Spanish lyrics?
Spanish lyrics.
Okay.
So I'll tell you the translation. It says, "If you go tomorrow, under the warmth of the sun, I will cry 6 tears for you out of love, and 1 of them out of relief. Love is like a tree that blossoms with water, but at some point the flower comes, and at some point eventually the flower falls and the fruit rottens. 7 tears I'll cry for you under this warm sun, 6 of them out of love, and 1 of them out of relief. 7 tears I'll cry for you under this warm sun, 6 of them out of love, and 1 of them out of pure relief."
Thank you for coming by today.
Sure. Si te vas mañana, bajo el calor de este sol tibio, lloraré 6 lágrimas de amor y 1 de alivio. El amor es como un árbol que florece con agua bendita, pero el fruto llega y cae la flor, y al final el fruto se marchita. Siete lágrimas por ti, bajo este sol tibio, 6 de amor por derramar y 1 de alivio. 7 lágrimas de adiós bajo este sol tibio, 6 de amor por derramar y 1 de alivio.